All right, welcome back to the channel. We got some bickering going on between boxing and MMA, specifically between Dana White, who is the president of the UFC, and Steven Espinoza, who runs boxing for Showtime. I'm not sure what his title is, but I know he's a vice president of like entertainment or whatever. So it's not just boxing. But anyway, so these guys have a beef over the UFC card that took place this weekend, and whether or not Dana White was muscling UFC fighters into not complaining about the health risks involved with that production. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So Dana White and the UFC bring the UFC back, mixed martial arts back to mixed martial arts fans in the middle of this pandemic that we're going through, with a fight card, with a match card. You call it a fight card? Fight card that they put on this Saturday. So from my understanding, people enjoyed the event. I didn't get to watch the event. I am not an MMA fan, so it don't matter if it's a pandemic, not a pandemic. If Amanda Nunes ain't on that fight card, more than likely I'm not gonna watch it, because that's who I make sure I watch all Amanda Nunes's fights. But other than that, dude, I respect the sport of MMA, but it's not something I really focus on. But in this particular topic, the worlds of boxing and MMA collide because there was and this is what happened from my understanding. I haven't watched it on Twitter and watched, the back and forth go on. There was an attorney from Canada that represented the UFC that stated that something to the effect of no fighters for the UFC have complained about the health protocols or the protection that they were receiving for participating in this event. Steven Espinoza responded with, that's because they had to sign a disparage agreement, that non-disparagement agreement. There was a non-disparagement clause in their agreement that prevented them from criticizing or even mentioning this stuff at all. And that's why you don't hear about it. It's not implying that it's not a result of them feeling really secure about this, the fighters feeling very secure about the situation. It's the result. It was more that they are afraid of being held responsible for violating their agreement, and specifically the non-disparagement clause in their agreement. So he goes on to say that and characterize it as not even a non-disparagement clause. He said that it is a non-criticism clause, and pretty much said that it was implied that this was something that was untoward or manipulative or oppressive of the, that's probably the best way to say it, that Dana White and the UFC were being oppressive in their stifling of criticism by UFC fighters over, anything related to this particular event. So, and he said that's not a non-disparagement clause, that's a non-criticism clause. And, so I read this article in Boxing Scene that also broke it down, and they say that most people that they talk to, and I assume that they mean attorneys that they spoke to regarding this, agree with Steven Espinoza. And, I'm thinking to myself, listening the whole time, like, I think Steven Espinoza is just taking shots at Dana White. Right? He's just taking shots at Dana White. And let me go into why I say that. Because I don't put any credence in it whatsoever. I give no credence whatsoever to Steven Espinoza's position on this particular matter, and I will tell you why. Let me read what they say. That now, I don't have a copy of the contract. I just have what Boxing Scene put up. And let me read to you what this is. It says, participants shall not cause its affiliates, agents, representatives not to, Participants shall not and shall cause its affiliates, agencies, and representatives not to defame or disparage any of the released parties in any medium whatsoever in connection with the activities, without limiting the generality of the foregoing. The participant will not suggest or communicate to any person or entity that the activities have been or will be held without appropriate health, safety, or other precautions relating to COVID-19 or otherwise. And now this is the portion where they lay out the sanction. If the participant is a fighter, the participant hereby acknowledges and agrees that in the event that the participant breaches this paragraph 7, in paragraph 7 will be if you can see it in your mind's eye, it'll say 7-point non-disparagement would be the title of the provision or paragraph 7. The company may revoke all or any part of any prizes or awards won by the participant in connection with the activities, including but not limited to purchases, win bonuses, other fight-related bonuses, and event-based merchandise royalties. So that is a non-disparagement clause. Okay, that's a non-disparagement clause. Period. There is no, when Stephen Espinoza said that's not a non-disparagement clause, that's a non-criticism clause. No, that is a non-disparagement clause. And let me tell you, but for the sake of the fighters, it's something really, depending on who you're talking to, that might not be worth the paper it's printed on. So let me explain something to you, because Stephen Espinoza said it's not a non-disparagement clause because you can't even make a criticism even if it is true. Now that I think is just a little bit of that's why I'm thinking, yeah, Steve, I think you're just being you just might have some beef with Dana White, because there is a difference between this state clearly states shall not defame or disparage. Defame or disparage. Defamation, which is is liable or slander, depending on whether it's written or oral, right? A defense to defamation is that it's the truth, right? So if I go out and say, hey, Johnny cheated on his wife, right? I did not defame you if you actually cheated on your wife. It would be defamation if you had not cheated on your wife and then I just said something that was not true to tear you down. That's defamation, okay? That is not disparagement. Disparagement is something that is much more loose. Disparagement is something where you could just damage my reputation, and it doesn't matter if what you say is true or not. It's that you said it, and the result of it could be that you damage my reputation. Now, people would say, well, don't you have the right to say whatever you want to say? It's in the First Amendment, right? Freedom of speech. In this case, no, because the First Amendment does not apply to conversations taking place in a private, in a private setting. It doesn't matter. And you also have the ability to waive your First Amendment rights. So in this particular case, they are clearly waiving their First Amendment right, which is their freedom of speech. They waived it, and they waived it in consideration or in exchange for consideration or exchange for their ability to participate in this event. So it's clearly disparagement, and being disparaging is, they specifically lay out what is disparaging. They say you cannot, participant will not suggest or communicate to any person or entity that the activities have been or will be held without appropriate health, safety, or other precautions, whether relating to that particular virus or not. So they're very specific about what they believe to be disparaging conversations. And a truth is not, the fact that what they're saying is true is not a defense to disparagement. It might be a defense to defamation, but not to disparagement, because these people, they waived their right waived their First Amendment right and specifically agreed what was to the definition of disparagement. So I don't even so when I read this, I'm like, nah, man, you're just kind of hot. But also it really doesn't even affect their ability to, say, for example, now what would be, in my opinion, because this stuff is an art. This is not a science, right? It depends upon what state you're living in. It's more than this is going to be a federal deal because because it involves a transaction, that is taking place across state lines, because the fight can, even though you watch the fight might have taken place in Florida, the fight, it can be seen everywhere in the world. So more than likely this is a federal issue, but, the only thing that they couldn't prevent somebody from doing is if, say, they wanted to report any type of issue, some type of health concern to the police, or some type of health concern to, I don't know, the Center for Disease Control, or some administrative or governmental entity that has jurisdiction over that particular issue, or has some type of enforcement responsibilities of all, specifically involving that group. In that case, Dana White could not prevent you from informing those type of people of health concerns, because that's against the public interest. And more than likely, if they went to court with that, the judge or the jury would probably find that was overly broad, right? And not have that particular portion of it enforceable. So, to me, it's an interesting conversation to hear take place. But at the end of it, man, Dana White, did what he's supposed to do. He's going to try to put on an event where all these guys are going to make money. He knows that that the likelihood of him getting a really bad reputation, or the MMA having their reputation run through the mud is heightened because they're doing it in this particular time, under this particular set of circumstances. So it's reasonable for them to say, hey, look, no matter what you do, you cannot go out here and telling people or implying to people that we're not taking care of business, because it will cause irreparable harm to our brand and limit our ability to make fights and do these things in the future. So no go. And they specifically laid it out in the agreement, so the fighters know what they should know if they read their agreement, what they signed up for. And again, unlike what Stephen Espinoza said, the truth is not a defense the truth is a defense to defamation, not to disparagement. Anyway, it is what it is. Sorry, I got a little bit nerdy on this particular video, but I thought it was interesting because people are saying that they agree with. I don't agree with boxing on this side. I think Dana White did what Dana White was supposed to do. And also, if there was any real major health issues connected with that thing, anybody involved in it still could go to an authority. They just can't go to the media and start talking about it, and letting that idea run rampant through social media or media circles. Anyway, it is what it is. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.